I mean, and you mentioned your grandmother. You come from a long line of freedom fighters, going all the way back to your great grandfather, right? You know what I'm saying? Just as far as you know, that lineage, your
Yeah.
lineage was long. You know what I'm saying? And your grandmother as well. You know, recognized as a freedom fighter outside of just I am the mother of or I am the grandmother of. You know what I mean? If you could talk about her a little in her life, because I think that again, with me bringing you on here, I didn't just bring you on here because I'm a fan of your music. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I like your music, but fuck the music. We talking about liberation. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate your work because you ain't just rapping for the sake of rapping, and you ain't just trying to make a hot song. You're very vocal, like your father, like your grandmother, so on and so forth. So if you don't mind speaking to us about, you know, who your grandmother was and who she is to uh to freedom fighters, not just in Nigeria but abroad.
Well, Funmilayo Ransom Kuti was the foremost socialist revolutionary. She was the first black woman to visit China because she was the confidant of Chairman Mao.
Hmm.
This young African girl, I find her life fascinating. A movie about her was just made. That was where the premiere was yesterday. That was what clashed our thing yesterday.
No doubt. There was a good excuse though. You was like, look, I'm at my grandmother's movie showing, so I don't want to hear shit. So I was cool with that.
Yeah, I didn't know it was last minute. My sister told me,
Nah.
so I had to take a vibe. Listen. Anyway, she was also a confidant of Nkrumah, very close friend of uh, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah,
Yes.
uh, whose works she began to introduce to my dad, and I think my dad met him a few times too,
Hmm.
due to their connection. Yeah, my grandmom was an incredible woman. I mean, I don't know uh, where to even begin, but her life was cut short. She was killed in 77. She died in 78, but she was actually killed in 77 when she was thrown out the window during the siege on my father's house. Everybody says it's my father's house, but it was actually my grandmother's house that she gifted to my dad, you know, when he came of age. So yeah, she was incredible. She was an amazing, amazing woman. She also led the Abeokuta women's rebellion against the colonial taxation that led to the dethronement of the then Alake of our land, of our of our town, called the Alake of Egba, our town, of the Egba people, my ethnic group, which was, she was a very fiery lady. Let me put it that way, and very powerful as well.
Yeah. So you saying that the police threw her out the window, basically?
The
And
military, the
the
police.
military. Okay. And what was the? I mean, there's no logical reason, but what was the reason? Because we've heard stories, of course, but we learned that oftentimes when we don't talk to the source, you know what I'm saying, things get distorted. So what would you say?
I think my grandma was killed when my dad's house was being burnt. It was the siege of Kalakuta Republic. The day the republic was burnt. I don't think they had any other reason except, this was also, a way to silence my father,
Right.
you know, and to get rid of a strong opponent of the military regime, which is my grandmother at the same time.
So basically, they had problems with your father because your father was outspoken. Um, what was, I mean, what was that? What did that mean in that time? What was he talking about? What was their
So my dad
problem?
was vocal about everything, and then majority of African countries were under the military regimes, these were dictatorships that did not allow any kind of dissent, any kind of association, and everybody had to toe the line. And here was this musician who absolutely refused to be how they wanted him to be, and used his music and his lifestyle to rebel against the dictatorship that was in my country. And they made him pay a heavy price for that. He was used as an example over and over again, and every time they knocked him down, he stood right back up and came back for more. And it was a macabre dance that they had, him and these dictatorships. The different coups and new regimes. It was really a macabre dance. One that my father fought through his music, and they beat him up with sticks and bats and guns and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And he continued on. He continued to fight. He continued to struggle, and his spirit of resistance continues to live to this day, because eventually, you decided that you wanted to be the same. You wanted to do the same. You wanted to be a singer, a freedom fighter. How did that come about?
Well, I think knowing what I know today as even if I wasn't my father's son, if I knew the things I knew today about the situation of African people all over the world, I would want to use my talents for the liberation of my people also. And I think that's what is lacking in our global family as African people, that we do not believe that our liberation is worthy of our talents. And it's not our fault. It's just because we're indoctrinated through this uh, colonialist education, imperialist educational system that indoctrinates us into uh, uh, willing tools of empire. It takes a lot of effort for an African person to break this chain in their minds, because we have been through their educational system, which has set the examples of what we think is right and wrong, and the people we think are proper and those that we think are improper.